Across Tasmania, this is Tas News 24 with Kane Dello.
Good evening. We begin tonight's coverage with a recent story from New Zealand and the devastation of the volcano eruption that has now claimed a number of lives. 10 Australians are now confirmed dead, 2 are presumed to have died, and 12 are still being treated in hospital after being transferred to special burns units within Australia for treatment. Rachel Lehman is in New Zealand with this story.
You can hear the panic rising as passengers spot what starts as an angry, mottled steam cloud bursting out of Whakaari. In seconds, it morphs into an utterly enormous mushroom that appears to swallow the entire island before it starts oozing out into the ocean and towards their boat. It's hard to comprehend this lethal concoction against the backdrop of a dazzling, calm blue sky. Rewind a few hours literally and the footage pans past a White Island tour boat. Leilani Hopkins stands out in her bright yellow jumper. Her dad Jeff beside her in shorts and hiking boots. Here's Leilani talking after the eruption.
It was surreal. I've watched documentaries of natural disasters and I've learned about them in school and at uni, but I never thought I would be there.
That morning, though, the Hopkins couldn't begin to imagine the critical role they'd play in helping survivors. As the passengers board, they each hand over a small metal cone marked with a dot to a crew member, who stacks them. They seem to be the equivalent of mine tags, a tangible record of the number of people on the boat.
Good morning.
The next images, the wash from the tour boat as it cuts through the bright blue-green ocean. White Island in the foreground growing larger every second. A gentle steam cloud topping off Whakaari. The engine slows and the guide's commentary kicks in.
Okay guys, welcome to Whakaari, White Island. Just coming on the works maybe guys, we're going to get that place together on one of our moorings. While we do that, I'll just quickly give you a history of the island. It's estimated to be between 150,000 and 200,000 years old.
Crew members decked out in blue and white striped tops and orange hard hats are easy to spot. The sightseers wear yellow helmets and they're loaded into inflatables and head the couple of 100 metres to shore. Here's Leilani again.
Because I get real bad seasick. Me and my dad were on one of the first boats off and onto land. So we were in the first tour group that walked around.
The camera pans to another reasonable-sized boat anchored a few metres away. The man behind the camera is Alessandro Kaufman from Brazil. You can hear him as he walks up the path towards the crater through the charcoal grey, barren, lunar-like surface. A cluster of other tourists are headed in the same direction. They're a few metres ahead. The moody landscape is highlighted with specks of canary yellow. The hard-hatted tourists moving closer to the crater. What looks like crisp white steam clouds waft out of the belly of Whakaari. And the wind is picking up. A guide fires out facts and warnings.
Well over 300. So it does get very hot. Latest temperature reading is sitting around about. Photo opportunity up there as well. You'll notice there's an area where there's a bit of bubbling water. Please don't go too close to it because it is undercut. Not quite sure where it sort of ends up under our feet. And you may need to use your mask up there, okay? Now if you do get engulfed by the steam, just basically turn your back to it. And if you need to, you can just crouch down, generally.
A selfie shows Alessandro, who is filming, hard hat on, along with glasses and a face mask. Others around him are kitted out too. About a dozen of the sightseers continue to climb to the crater. Next scene, they're milling, looking relaxed, just a few steps from the edge of what looks like a pond of steam.
It was a lot smaller, obviously, when it first started. Basically what happened, the creation of this was caused by the magma chamber coming up very close to the surface, flowing or busting through here. It burst out on the right hand side over there, and there's a watercourse runs down the southern side, the northern side of the inner crater. The Crater Lake level sat there for about 2 years.
They walk between copper-coloured rocks that are stained bright yellow at their edges. Water flows between them. It's green.
I'm a little bit worried why it's going green.
You can hear hot water puddles bubbling. The video jumps ahead and they're back near the sea. It's utterly picturesque as they reach the jetty. The pickup boat's heading in to collect them. The camera does a complete 180 and catches the stragglers bringing up the rear before it tilts down to Alessandro's watch. It's about 11 minutes to 2. 22 minutes before White Island goes up.
Essa daí é uma das poucas oportunidades que você tem para ir direto quase na cratera ali do vulcão. Na cratera, né? Você fica.
This tour group makes it safely back to their boat. Then this, against the backdrop of a roaring boat engine and an almost cloudless sky. A cloud starts to unfurl from the centre of Whakaari. You can hear muffled cries of, "Oh my God, go, go, go." Get inside as the toxic cloud seeps across the island towards them.
Man.
That's terrifying. You can't tell your mum. You can't tell your mum this happened.
No. Man, look. Jeez.
Filming continues inside and you can see the reflections of passengers lined up along the windows. The enormous grey cloud has now all but swallowed White Island. They motor a safe distance away before appearing to double back. The boat that had been anchored alongside them is still there, glazed in ash. The camera moves to the jetty on the island. You can just make out a group clustered there. A call goes out to Coast Guard and passengers can be heard asking for inhalers.
You got your name on maybe any road?
Pessoas na ilha ainda.
Okay, Whakatane Coast Guard, Phoenix, do you copy? Yeah, just so we confirm with what's happening out there.
Does anyone have an inhaler? I've got one.
The cloud continues to spew from Whakaari as the boat pulls as close as it can to shore.
Rachel Lehman with that story. Northern Territory Police, along with the assistance of the Australian Border Force, have detained a 52-year-old man with a lengthy criminal record who was out of his jurisdiction and may have been attempting to sail to the Philippines to see a girlfriend. The 52-year-old, who Northern Territory Police have described as an experienced sailor, had not eaten for up to a week and was running low on water when he was picked up by an Australian Border Force patrol boat off the coast of the Northern Territory's remote top end. Court records show the man had previously faced charges across northern New South Wales, in Coffs Harbour, Grafton, Ballina, and was on a 2.5-year suspended sentence for domestic violence offences when he left his jurisdiction, ending up in the Northern Territory. The 52-year-old is now expected to be extradited to Sydney today. Back home, and over 400 residents and community members have rallied in protest of the Northern Prison, which has been proposed by Attorney General Elise Archer to be built in the suburb of Westbury. However, the strong community support have expressed their disappointment at the fact the prison is planned to be built in such a tourist-driven town. Many residents told Tas News 24 that they feel their quiet and peaceful town will lose its character and the likes of tourism will slump if the prison is to be built. The Attorney General has met with community members over a number of weeks now, but her aim to get public support in preference of building the Northern Prison seems to be falling on every level. We would have liked to put our questions to Ms Archer, but sadly we were told we could not attend the community meeting. Our question to Ms Archer would be, is it more sustainable to fix the continuing problems at Risdon Prison in the State South before making attempts to build another prison, especially when Risdon is suffering major issues both internally with correctional staff and within the prison itself? The banking regulator is now investigating one of the big four banks. Westpac is being investigated over whether it may have breached the Banking Act by failing to comply with anti-money laundering rules for many years. Late last month, the federal government's financial crime agency AUSTRAC launched a federal court action against Westpac, alleging the bank had breached anti-money laundering laws. Elizabeth Murch has more.
Turning a blind eye to where the money was coming from. even if it was from child traffickers, sex offenders or high-risk sanctioned countries. Australian regulators accused the nation's second-largest bank, Westpac, of a whopping 23 million breaches of money laundering laws.
And Westpac failed to carry out appropriate customer due diligence on high-risk transactions to the Philippines and Southeast Asia concerning known financial indicators relating to potential child exploitation risks.
Westpac responded saying they self-reported cases to regulators, and they said such breaches should never have happened. Australian regulators are pursuing fines of up to 21 million Australian dollars for each breach. In theory, that amounts to a whopping 483 trillion Australian dollars, or nearly 300 trillion euros in penalties. Westpac will not have to pay that hefty a fine, which amounts to over 3 times the global economy. But the accusations are throwing the Australian banking sector back into the spotlight. Australia's 4 biggest banks were accused earlier this year of rampant malpractice. And last year, the largest lender, the Commonwealth Bank, paid a settlement fine of 700 million Australian dollars for 53,000 similar breaches. With 19.5 million international fund transfers that went unreported, Westpac has entered into an entirely other level of misconduct, one that regulators say has propped up child trafficking, drugs, weapons and dirty money from across the globe.
Now to the fires in New South Wales, and Fire Commissioner has warned of the worst possible circumstances, combining this week to create dangerous fire threat across New South Wales. The Gospers Mountain megafire in the Hawkesbury and Blue Mountains northwest of Sydney is the main concern, with a blaze the size of Greater Sydney unable to be contained. More than 100 other fires are also burning in New South Wales.
We've got just over 100 fires burning. More than half of those are not contained. We've still got one fire up at Watch and Act alert level just to the northeast of Glen Innes, but we are seeing a significant attention, necessarily so, to this large fire that's burning north of Sydney, stretching from out near Capertee around the Glen Alice, Glen Davis, Nunes area, all the way through to the western areas of the Central Coast. Yesterday or over the weekend, crews have continued to try and protect and secure protection for the communities such as Mount Wilson, Mount Irvine on the Bells Line of Road there. Unfortunately, in the conditions yesterday, the backburning and the operations that are going on there saw a dramatic escalation in fire activity. That fire has now crossed the Bells Line of Road just to the southern side, and sadly overnight we've got reports of potentially dozens of buildings that have been damaged and or destroyed as a result of that fire, differentiating between homes and outbuildings and sheds and those sorts of things. It's still got to be done. As is too often the case, sadly, in these sorts of circumstances, some of our own members, including senior volunteer officers, would appear to have suffered some damage and or loss to their homes and property as well. So, given the conditions we've got over the coming days and the balance of this week, there's considerable focus and considerable effort that will continue to be invested into the communities along the Bells Line of Road, such as you mentioned, Mount Wilson, Mount Irvine, Barambing, Mount Tomah, places like that, given the immediacy of the fire and the potential impact into those communities.
Well, that's our bulletin for tonight. If you'd like to stay updated, check out our website at tasnews24.net, or you can send us an email at news@tasnews24.net. Until next time, take care and bye for now.